friends. Lisa Ziegler coming to you here for Wednesday's Ask a Flower Farmer. And if you guys have been joining along with us, you know that this week we have a special guest joining us here today. So Jennie Love of Lovin' Fresh Flowers of the No-Till Flower Podcast is going to be joining us here to answer your questions, whether it be on design or Farmer-Florist, business questions. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm reading all the names to look to see when she gets here. So she hasn't got here yet. So if you all do not know Jennie, Jennie Love is like one of the foremost farmer-florist in the industry. I mean, she was on Martha Stewart's top 10, but Jennie has a really unique gift. And that gift is that she is incredibly business savvy as well. So Jennie brings a lot to the table. And look, she's here. Let's ask her to join us. Is going to be answering questions all about whatever you've got questions on, folks. And if you're one of those people that, hey, Jennie.
Hello.
You're not inside in the air conditioning like me. I'm jealous.
I'm outside in the hot, but at least in the shade. So I'm here.
Well, thank you for joining us. And I was just telling folks about that maybe haven't met you before about who you are.
Aww.
And just that you are just one of the leading farmer florists in our industry. But for me, what is so unique about Jennie is she is as business savvy as she is amazing designer and event person. So Jennie is here and we're going to answer your questions. So as always, folks, if you wouldn't mind, please post your questions down at the bottom of your screen. You see a little bubble with a question mark in it. And that way we don't have to scroll through every single thing. And believe it or not, I just heard a big truck pull up, which means they're getting ready to open this door and bring in a pallet of stuff. Isn't that the way it goes?
It is the way
it
goes.
So, folks, if you have any questions for Jennie, and you know, guys, this is the opportune time to ask the kind of stuff like, why would I want to consider growing flowers and using them in my own events and to do an event? So, Jennie, why don't you talk to us a little bit about kind of what led you down this path to become a wedding and event florist?
Yeah, well, I mean, weddings happened to me by accident. So I've been doing this since 2000. I did my first wedding in 2008 as a farmer florist and officially launched Lovin' Fresh Flowers, my business. You can move yourself, Lisa, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm moving.
I officially launched my business in 2009 as Lovin' Fresh Flowers. But it all happened because I was your typical flower farmer just starting out brand new. And I was selling at farmers markets. And one of the vendors right next to me at the farmers market, her name was Kirsten, and she was selling bread. And the best bread, by the way. She made this apple cinnamon bread that was just, anyway. And she happened to be getting married. And after, at the end of the summer, so we had spent the whole summer next to each other at the market. And she's like, hey, you want to do my wedding flowers? And I was like, no. Okay. I had no idea what I was doing. Thankfully, I was trained in floral design at Longwood Gardens, so I had training in floral design, but I didn't know anything about weddings. And frankly, I've been making it up for almost a decade now, but I've refined my process a lot along the way. And so number one reason I think farmer florists, flower farmers should be doing weddings is because it is hands down the most lucrative way to sell your flowers. And it seems really, really intimidating to sell or to do weddings because it seems so intense and complex, and it is. But I've developed a lot of systems over the years that make it so much easier. So we crank out at our busiest season ever. We did 75 weddings in one season, which was between March and October. And now we generally do about 35 to 40 weddings a year. They're all seasonal. completely based on what my farm can grow. So I try to use everything that my farm can grow. Number one reason for that, I see lots of questions, so I'll wrap it up here. But number one reason for that, guys, is because you get the full markup on your flowers.
Yes.
Unlike a traditional florist who has to buy flowers from a wholesaler, then turn around and mark them up, and then they get essentially, I'm really making this like quick and dirty here, but like 50% of sort of the money you could get when doing wedding flowers. If you're a farmer florist who's growing your own flowers, providing your own flowers, then you get 100% of the money, which when you do the math means that you can have a six-figure farm on about an acre, easily six-figure, by the way, net, not gross. So that's a pretty big deal, you know?
That's so true, Jenny. And that leads us into one of our questions because Vicky asked, and I think you just kind of answered this,
Yeah.
as Jenny, go over how you pay yourself off the price you ask for your flowers. And I think you just kind of covered that, right?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, when you're a wedding florist, there is a pricing formula that is standard within the floral industry, the design industry. So that comes with a 20% labor fee. You build 20% labor fee into any design that you do. And then ideally, you also build in a little bit of what's, has many different names in the industry, but I just like to call it the icing on the cake. So you build in a tiny percentage for every single design that you do. For me, it's about a 0.5% for the price of every single design I do. And then that becomes my retirement fund. So I'm also paying myself through my business because I'm the farmer and the business manager. But when it comes to every design that leaves my farm and my studio, I get a 0.5% of that as just pure. That's my someday I'm going to live in Mexico and I'm going to have a beach house and it's going to be amazing.
I believe that.
Yes,
I
it
believe
will
that
happen.
about you. So
Yes.
before I ask you this next question, I want to say to folks that I didn't get to earlier is that the course that Jenny has
Okay.
produced called the Farmer-Florist School, the wedding process, is nothing to do with design. It is about this backside of this business of not only crop planning and how she goes about all of that, but contracts and handling brides and
And crop
pricing.
plans. I just saw Marty asked about crop plans. I go
Yes,
through
I've
crop
got that one
planning in
up. Yes.
detail. Yep, yep. It's all
Um,
there.
so I just wanted to get that out there for everybody because I know we have friends on here that may not be aware of that. But there is a way to learn more about it with Jenny. So Marty is asking, how do you crop plan for weddings and events? You
Yeah.
have a deadline and you have a palette. How do you make that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's a complicated one that's hard to answer without me having a PowerPoint and slides to show you all the spreadsheets. But basically, in the wintertime, I try to book my weddings about 12 months in advance. That's my ideal timeline for booking weddings. Although, fun aside, I just booked a wedding last Friday for this Saturday. So I've currently got a wedding that has an 8-day run up. That's how desperate people are
Yeah.
right now for wedding florists. So this is the time to get into wedding flowers if you're a flower farmer that's been sitting on the edge, because people are so, there just aren't, there are not enough florists at the moment. That's what there is. There are not enough florists for all the people that want to get married thanks to the COVID backup and the sort of like, rush to get married right now. But anyway, to go back to Marty's question, I try to book my clients 12 months in advance, and that gives me time to sit down and I do a mood board for them where I pick out like what the colors are going to look like, what flowers in particular I want to use. Then I do a spreadsheet, which is a custom crop plan for them. So I have a master crop plan for my farm, and then I have a crop plan for each person's wedding. And then that's timed, I've got years of experience here, so I can time it so it works out that I'm usually hitting it on the money when I need those flowers. But sometimes when I don't, then that's where sort of the true magic of being a flower farmer comes in, where you learn to scramble, you learn to understand what you have, what you don't have. Lisa, you've talked about this all the time, how you like look out there and you're like, I don't have anything. What am I gonna do? And then It works. I have a saying here at my farm. It says, trust the field. And my crew always laughs at me because they don't believe that saying, but I do. The field
Yep.
always
It
delivers.
always comes through,
It
doesn't it?
always comes through. Yeah.
It always
You
comes
just have
through.
to be open to it. You have to not be so regimented in your head that you are only willing to work with certain things. You have to be open to like whatever nature hands you. And I guarantee you it's always, I get chills thinking about every single time. There's something out in my field that I didn't see until I needed it. And then I'm just like mind blown from there. Yeah.
It's so true. And so here's a really great question for beginners.
Yeah.
Is flower farming sustainable enough to support yourself even when the economy isn't too well? Meaning, can you still make enough money, and how sustainable is that? Thank you for your wise
That's a
words.
really good question. And I have two I have two real life witness accounts here because I've been through two economic downturns now as a flower farmer, and Lisa, I know you have too. So I started my flower farm in 2008. That was when like the economy dropped out. So I started it during a recession, had no problem making money right from the start, and now some would say we're in an economic downturn. I don't know. I think the flower industry is doing great right now. But yeah, I have supported. I've been a full time flower farmer since the beginning of my venture as a flower farmer. So I quit my job cold turkey, and started flower farming 100% right from the start. And I have been 100% supporting myself with my own business ever since. I don't have a husband or a partner who's contributing to my income. So I pay my own mortgage and I pay the farm mortgage and I pay my crew really, really well, good living wages. And I make a lot of money. And I'm not saying that to boast. I'm saying that because it's really, really, really hard work. And you should not be doing this for
Pennies.
yeah, I'll say that the polite way is for pennies. So there are a lot of people struggling financially with flower farming. I am not going to lie about that. There's lots of people out there that are barely turning a profit. And I feel really strongly that that's because they're not approaching their farm as a business
Yep.
first. And also, you need to get into design work. That is where the money is. Even if you don't want to do weddings, then do funerals or do baby showers or something. You need to do your own design. That's where the money is in flower farming, basically. Yeah.
So this question is not posted down below, but it's like right on what you're talking about. Sweet Bee Flower Farm asked, so do I need formal training to do weddings, or is
Ah,
practicing your craft enough?
yeah. Yeah. To, uh, um, so I was self-taught as a designer at first. So I really just always was making flowers when I was younger, and picking them and making bouquets. So sort of self-taught in that capacity. But then I recognized that if I really wanted to be good at weddings, I needed to get training. So you can do a lot now thanks to YouTube and stuff in terms of design work.
Mhm.
But the reason Lisa finally convinced me, Lisa, for the record, had to pull my teeth to get me to do an
I had to
online
buy her
course.
dinner a couple of times.
Yeah, she had wined and dined me. But the only reason I agreed to do it because I had zero interest in doing an online course is because there is a level of training that's really necessary for knowing how to handle customers, to know how to do the paperwork, to know about contracts and proposals and pricing. And that you should not be winging that because
Correct.
that's where you lose your shirt, you lose your sanity, everything falls apart at that point. So you can wing the design if you really need to, but you should not be winging the business part of it because then that's the problem. Yeah.
And, that is just so very true. And I'll just say here that perhaps one of the most amazing things about taking an online course is how, you're in the excited part of doing design, or, of the wedding event
Yeah,
business.
design
And
is
you can,
sexy.
yeah, that's the fun part. But
Yeah.
you have this course in your back pocket that no matter whether it's next month, next the next season or the next year or the year after that, you can refer back. And we also, one of the things that I think sets our courses apart is that we host these alumni closed Facebook groups where communities build. And it's just our students of the individual courses. So for instance, Jennie's course has an alumni group. And those are people that are serious about, they took the course too, and they're out there doing it, and how they learn from one another, and the course instructors drop in and out. So I think that having that backup, kind of like gives you more confidence. Don't you think, Jennie? It just allows you to maybe stick your toe in the water.
The number one thing I hear from my course students, and then also I do teaching and consulting in real life too with a lot of people. And the number one thing I hear over and again from everybody who I've helped sort of coach along their journey is that what they hear from me gives that, and what I'm doing, by the way, is I'm just following industry standards. So the pricing system I give people and stuff is just, the Association of Florists, that's their thing. So it's not like I made this stuff up, but I help empower people. I give them, they're scared to price properly, or they're scared to have like a formal contract because, I don't know, you're just a farmer. Then by taking this course, then they feel like, oh no, I'm part of this industry. I'm a professional. There's a lot of other professionals just like me, and then everybody kind of perpetuates that, and it's really healthy for our industry.
So very true. But you know what I try to really hit home with my people is, you've now joined a group of people that are professionals.
Yeah.
We're all putting skin in the game, meaning you're
Right.
spending your money, you're spending your time, your energy, and your focus.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, it was so funny when Jennie was recording and making this course at our farm. She and Suzanne were doing the actual recording part of it, and I was listening to it. I'm not going to say that it was so simple, because it's not, but the step-by-step method that you offer, like, how do you talk to brides? And this is going to bring me up for the next question. How do you find your people? How do you say no to the people that aren't your people?
Right.
And
exactly.
How do you find them? And so let's see here. Barefoot Mama asks, are there any red flags that a client will throw up that makes you call to avoid working with them?
Yeah, we've got a couple red flags that are, so I'll let people have one red flag, and then if they have up to 3 red flags, then I tell them we're not available for their wedding date. So that's the polite way of saying, I don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
And we do that pretty regularly, in terms of, you can be choosy. You can pick your type of customer. That is what you should be doing.
Right.
So a couple of red flags that we have here at Love and Fresh Flowers is, if somebody says they want roses and baby's breath, that's one red flag. And that's nothing against people that want roses or baby's breath, but we don't grow either of those things. So if that's what they want, we're not going to be a good fit. I'm not buying in roses and baby's breath, so that's a red flag. Another thing is if they won't give us their budget. So sometimes they just won't tell us a dollar figure of what they want to spend. And if they won't tell us, then that's a big red flag for me, because I'm not going to go to all the effort of trying to put together a proposal for them and all that, just to have them be like, oh, we were just looking to spend $500 when the proposal I put together is $5,000. So, and then, a couple other, some of the other red flags have to do with like what their venue is. Those are more nuanced because it depends. If they're at a certain venue, our flowers just don't look good there, and we don't do good work there. And so anyway, there's a series of red flags, but those 2 are the most important ones.
And don't you think it is just so hard in the beginning, when you're hungry, got bills to pay, to say no? But after you don't say no when you should have said no, it's easier the next time, right?
Oh, yeah. It's very easy.
All right.
I also have this new thing, not new. I learned this early on, to charge what is the PETA tax, which is the paint in the bleep tax, which when you realize there's a customer who you can't you got too far down the road with them to be able to say, oh, I'm sorry, we're not available for your date,
Right.
then you can price a little bit higher because they're needy, they're going to cause you stress, and ultimately that will help you feel better about having to go through all that stress when you
Well,
feel
and
like,
it takes
okay,
more time,
it takes
right?
more time.
And
Yeah,
it
and
takes
then you'll
more
be
time.
paid. You'll be
Yeah.
paid for your time, and that's another thing we talk about in the
Yeah.
course. I saw another question though.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I've got questions lined up here. So
Oh,
the
okay.
next one I
I'll be
have
short.
is, how do you find your clients for the weddings? And
Oh yeah,
I think that that is just an amazing part. I just have to stop and say this here. You all, there is a whole class on marketing in Jennie's course that is worth the course, taking the course, even if you're not into weddings. I mean, we're
yeah,
talking Google, Pinterest,
right.
Instagram, Facebook, all of them.
Yeah.
And she will change your world. So you go, Jennie.
Yeah, so, well, the number one thing you need to do is learn at least a little bit about something called search engine optimization, or SEO. You do not need to be a web designer to learn how to do this to help yourself. And this is what I go through in the course, but it's just like you learn how to leverage the power of beautiful images, which flower farming is probably the most picturesque thing you could ever do, next to floral design. So it's basically a 1-2 punch of the best visual advertising you could ever have. So it's a dream that way. So you want to learn how to leverage your photos online to get the most people to click and learn about your farm. So that has a lot to do with search engine optimization, which has a lot to do with learning how to use Pinterest and Google in particular to draw people in. And that has to do with writing the right captions, getting a Google listing, and so forth. So it's a little too much for this, but all of the biggest takeaway I can say right now, in a nutshell, is do not rely on Instagram. Too many
Right.
farmer florists are getting into this business and thinking that they just post to Instagram that will get them, all the clients they ever wanted. Instagram is a disaster right now. Sorry, Instagram, for saying this on Instagram, but it's a disaster for getting business, for getting new customers, because the algorithm is built against it. So you really need to learn how to use Pinterest and Google. Those are the two primary, most important pieces of the puzzle, and a newsletter mailing. And these are all things I talk about in the course. But it takes a little while. It takes some traction, but I do think
Mm-hmm.
right now, so right in the middle of 2021 and going into 2022, there's never been a better time to find customers for weddings if you're new to the business. Like,
I
they're just,
totally agree.
it's sharks in the water right now. They're
Yes.
everywhere. They see a flower petal, they're going to be whoosh. They just, so many couples need a wedding florist right now, and it's a great time to get into it. So yeah.
And don't you agree? I think this is something that we figured out last year, with you, is that, and people are not going for these enormous weddings.
No.
So it's a
Yeah.
great time to get your feet in the pool. You know what
It
I mean? It's like
really is.
smaller weddings. I mean, the
Yep.
intimate backyard wedding, there's
Yep.
just a lot of great
Yeah.
opportunities to
Yeah.
kind of give you a soft jump,
Yeah.
right?
And it's a subtle thing, but one of the things that's so nice right now is there's been a shift back to outdoor weddings, which we had been, the industry as a whole had kind of been going more towards these like super elaborate indoor, bring the outdoors inside, which is so much stress. Those aren't the kind of weddings you want to get into. But there's a real trend to go back to outdoors because it feels safer, with concerns about COVID. So a lot of weddings are outdoors now, which, what's so nice about that is, as a farmer florist, your flowers look really
Yes.
natural and in place when they're at an outdoor wedding. So it already gives you a leg up over those traditional florists who are just putting baby's breath and roses out there, which kind of look like, what's out here? So
Right.
that's another part of the trend that's really, really helpful for us. Yeah.
And you know what I forgot to mention earlier is Jennie we're offering her webinar replay of growing dahlias for
Oh,
weddings. And so you can go to my profile in Instagram, and hit Linktree, and it's the very top thing. You can request, you immediately get the replay. I think Jennie will do it, and I will too. We'll both put a posting in our stories, so it'll be easy for you to just swipe up and request it. Y'all, it is an awesome webinar. And when you sign up for that webinar, that puts you on Jennie's list. And when you get on Jennie's list, that means any other good stuff coming down the pike like that, resources, you'll automatically get. We'll remind you when her course enrollment only opens once a year, and that is mid-October. School starts the 1st of November for 6 weeks. And guys, I'm telling you, it's $700. We do offer a payment plan. However, you need to budget for it. The marketing class alone is so worthy of every flower farmer taking it. I'm not kidding you, but I will tell you that Jennie introduces you. It's like, I don't remember which class it is, Jennie. It's like, you don't have to start off doing a wedding that has 8 bridesmaids, a bride, and all that goes with it. You can do a small wedding. You can do bridal DIY buckets, the professional highest dollar DIY buckets.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
you really introduce people. That's what impressed me, I guess, the most. The person that's never done a wedding and that would never have done a wedding, but I feel equipped after I watched your course that if I had to do it, I could do it professionally.
And
so
there's a
y'all
lot of
check
different
out
ways to do weddings. Yeah, like you don't have to do one kind of wedding. You choose the style of wedding that makes sense to you in terms of the level of service and what you offer, that kind of stuff.
So before we get off here, I want you to answer one more question, but I want to say this. If you guys haven't checked out Jennie's podcast, the No-Till Flowers, totally amazing. So in the last recent years, Jennie has dove into no-till for a lot of reasons that you'll learn all about over on her podcast. And I saw that you just added a new one. Can't wait to listen to it. And be sure to check that out. Be sure to request the webinar. You'll find it on my story, her stories. Not yet. It will be here shortly. But it's also in my profile. And gang, I'll be over on Clubhouse at 1 o'clock talking cool flowers. So join me over there. Jennie, close us up with this question that you give such a scientific answer to in the course, or an equation that makes it so easy. How do you determine pricing? Give us a nutshell look at that.
Oh, sure. So pricing is a formula. It's not a guessing game. There is a tried and true formula available to all florists, whether you're a farmer florist or not. And in a nutshell, that involves taking the wholesale price, whatever that would have been in your area. So it varies from region to region, but the wholesale price of a given stem of flowers. And you either mark that up by, at the minimum, 2.5 times. Some florists who are higher end and higher markets will mark it up 5 times. So anywhere from 2 to 5 times markup. It depends on your area. But so you're going to take the wholesale cost, you're going to take that times a certain multiplier, that's the markup, and then you're going to add all that up, and you're going to take a 20% labor fee in addition to that. Then you're going to do a shrinkage percentage, but it's just math. It's a math formula. So in the course, I have a whole worksheet that makes this really, really straightforward. But basically, you do a markup, then you add your labor, then you add delivery fee and so forth, and then you come up with a price. So it is not a guessing game. It's something that is very, very, very formulaic. And I can talk all about that in the course. Sorry, it's kind of hard. I don't have any visual aids here right now, so
that's all right.
But to show you.
I think that people just knowing that there's an equation. I mean, that's just, it's like not this guessing game of, oh my gosh, how much do I charge for that? And
Exactly.
Yeah. So Jennie, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us here. And folks, I just totally encourage you to get her webinar, Growing Dahlia. I'm sorry to look at the name, Growing Dahlias for Weddings, which is an awesome video for you to watch. Check out the No-Till Flowers. Of course, you can find Jennie at Love and Fresh Flowers. And we just really encourage you to check out her course, because I'm telling y'all, if you want to make top dollar, events is,
Yeah.
doesn't have to just be weddings. Like Jennie was saying, it could be, you could become the bridal shower flower person.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I have
And
people
I
call us
have an
all the time for
on-demand
that kind of
course
stuff.
too, in case that's helpful.
That's right. Yes, she does have an on-demand on our workshops right for you. And y'all, that's the next highest dollar you can make on your farm, right, Jennie?
It is. Oh, it is.
So
Yeah.
check
It
her
might
out
even be
at the
higher than
gardener.
weddings, but
That's true. Less inputs, I guess. So you can find all of her courses over at thegardenersworkshop.com under the online courses. And we are going to sign off here. And Jennie, thank you so much for joining me here today. And we will talk soon.
yeah.
Ciao, everybody.
Cool. Thanks, Lisa. Bye, guys.